Good morning, guys. How are we all doing? I am Dan from Trading with Dan. This is our Bitcoin morning update. If you guys wouldn't mind smashing that like button, we shall go straight over to those Bitcoin 4-hour charts. Yes, Bitcoin on the 4-hour having a bit of a pullback off our little foray into new all-time highs. Have currently found ourselves back below our previous all-time high level, so just consolidating below. We can call it consolidating. We're actually just we are trending down in the short-term time frame. So back potentially into our range. You could look at this as a bull flag. It will depend whether we sort of penning it out, as in start to put in a symmetrical triangle of sorts, which just mean we'll have to obviously turn back up at some point and then consolidate potentially around this horizontal. But that may not be what's happening. We may just be drifting our way back into this wider range, where we will then start to just trade sideways within this range. Obviously 64,000 been an important level for us to hold. And if we do that, if we come back in here, we drop back in here, we hold above 64,000, trade sideways for a bit here, and then and then build up a head of steam, and then break onwards and upwards. That would look pretty healthy. Obviously there is the potential for us to continue catapulting onwards and upwards, but for what it's worth, in my opinion, I don't think that is necessarily what's going to happen. I do personally think we are more likely to drop back into this range, and then the bullish scenario will be hold above 64,000, trade sideways above here. I wouldn't call it a bearish scenario, but a less bullish scenario is that we just drop back into this previous range where a lot of the price action was, and then ultimately make a decision: do we move back on upwards or move back down? Which we've obviously have a heavy bias towards moving back up and onwards and upwards. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at here. We are obviously digesting lots of macro fundamental information into the finance 1.0 markets. Obviously inflation concerns, Fed chair presidents, just all that cool stuff, central bank largesse, lots of things to be considered. The whole crack up boom narrative. There's lots of things going on that are impacting our markets, and clearly at the moment they're impacting them in a bullish fashion. So no real reason to expect it not to be more of the same. If we have a look at our favorite barometer of risk in this market, is the Ethereum Satoshi pairing. Obviously had a pullback with Bitcoin's moves, not managed to hold above this horizontal here, but holding above this major horizontal here in this whole sort of area where we had previous price actions. So if we can get back above, I mean ideally into the 0.073s, then it would look particularly good then for ultimately taking out this level and moving onwards and upwards. But it will depend on what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin goes if this is to be a bull flag and Bitcoin makes another leg up, where we'll just see roughly where that would take us. I suspect it's just going to be high 70s if it wants to move. Yeah, high 70s. Well, mid 70s actually, mid 70Ks. If it takes us up to mid 70Ks, then yeah, obviously this pairing is going to really struggle. But then we do kind of know then once that does start to consolidate and trade sideways, Bitcoin, this will probably go on a very nice move. But yeah, that is just that dynamic. Bitcoin dominance similarly moved up into our resistance area, easing off it. So now it's a case of, is it consolidating below before making a leg above, or is it topping around here for another leg down? On the basis that my bias is that we are gonna trade sideways within this area again, and not necessarily catapult our way onwards up into deep into the 70Ks. On the basis that is my bias, therefore my bias would have to be this is going to turn around here and come down. But that is just pure crystal ball speculation, and to be taken with a pinch of salt. The DXY DXY obviously having problems here, having to decide between obviously inflation concerns, economic growth concerns going forwards, with the demand destruction from the inflation concerns, and then also having to price in the potential of Lau Brainerd at the helm of the Fed, because it would be extremely bearish for the dollar if that was the case. It may ultimately be or not be, in reality, be extremely bearish for the dollar in actual practice, but the market reaction to price that in increasing probabilities would be a weaker dollar, and then it's a case of what actually happens when we just have a lunatic Democrat at the helm. But all the central banks, they're all in a mess anyway. You might as well stick a heavily politicized Democrat lunatic there, and because at the end of the day, it's a bit of a wild institution at the moment, to say the least. 10-year easing off as well a bit here. 10-year easing off, which is it is strange to see. In the face of break-evens looking like they want to break out, i.e. the market pricing in higher inflation expectations going forwards. It is interesting to see bonds rallying, but like I said, lots of interesting dynamics going on here. There are lots of dynamics that always affect markets, and then it's at any given point in time which is the overwhelming dynamic that is pushing the market in which direction. This is why obviously it's difficult to understand where a price action will go at any given point. But yeah, the 10-year still holding down here, still holding below this old support, new resistance. Is not necessarily the best thing if this comes down, but I believe at the moment it's coming down on just some certain market participants potentially thinking that inflation is going to ease with the job, people coming back to the job market, but then obviously other market participants are just expecting inflation to keep going, obviously with the Fed being practically impotent. Obviously there is I'm pretty much of the camp that we are going to not see as crazy inflation as what the market's necessarily thinking at the moment, because like I said, there is that whole supply chain factor of people coming back to work that will be that can alleviate a lot of the inflation concerns, but that is only temporary. And ultimately this Ponzi market is going to run into more problems, especially if they continue with tapering and even potentially try to tighten, actually raise rates. We are ultimately just going to end up with basically a U-turn, a 180, much in the same way that the Fed has done before, when we had the problems in 2018 and they blew up the repo market, and obviously a few hedge funds obviously getting blown up with that because they weren't able to source their funding. So yeah, not much else to look at here. Nascoin still up there. Gold, I mean we like to look at these moves and think, oh, is this it? Is gold going to start making a move now? I mean, potentially, if we get above this horizontal, this good old 1840 that we've had drawn in for a while, that we've attempted to try and get above a few times. If we get above here, yeah, we can get another nice leg up. But then do we break above 1960? Then do we break above 2000? Who knows? Because ultimately cryptocurrency is taking away a lot of the shine and demand for gold. Silver similarly just hovering around its areas. I mean, if it breaks above say, call it 25, if it starts, I mean, it's just not even a good chart. There's so much resistance here to break through. There is so much going on. I mean, realistically, we just want to look at this. If you're a bull, once we start getting to about $28-29. Probably call it, yeah, $29. Get to $29, it'll start to look interesting. Anything in between then, you just have to assume it's practically going nowhere. And then, yeah, if we start to take out 21, then you might as well stick a fork in it. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. But nonetheless, it is something that we should be aware of. So we'll draw this in, because this is probably an important level to the downside. So we'll just have that in for prosperity. Go away. There we go. So yeah, there's our weekly look at the boring precious metals. Yes, so now let's just look at the stochastics. I guess some of the short and medium time frames are potentially easing off here, but we shall see. So 4 hour turning back down now, so it's going to weigh in on the short term price action. For sure, and as we see, short-term price action is drifting down anyway. 10 hours similarly, going to weigh on short-term price action. 12 hours still looking good though. Day, obviously the rest of these we know are going to be looking good. I mean, daily looking fantastic, 2-day looking good, 3-day looking good, 5-day there or thereabouts, weekly looking good, bi-weekly and monthly looking good. So ultimately, we know the destination. It is just the course that we are going to take. Are we just gonna leg our way up now? I mean, we could do, like I said, anything is possible. We've had quite a lot of bullish speculation in the market, various things recently, which is potentially responsible for this. Obviously, one of those being Tesla selling, Elon potentially selling stock, which then people then assume he's going to buy Bitcoin with it. Lots of assumptions there. And then also the GBTC grayscale, basically, potentially having a spot ETF. The market's looking at that as well. All of these are clear if, buts and maybes. Very hairy fairy events that the market is obviously speculating to the upside in. If any of those don't necessarily materialize, or just interest in those as a bullish driver diminish, then yeah, we will just drift back into this range. But obviously, if we do all of a sudden end up with a better spot Bitcoin ETF, then yeah, clearly to the upside. And then obviously, if Elon does sell 10% and then he's putting it all into Bitcoin, clearly then we'll make a nice move up then as well. But like I said, they're not really things that they're not really serious things to consider until they actually come into fruition. If they come into fruition, that's all I'd say about those. So yeah, interesting times. Like I said, they're everything ultimately overall looking bullish. We have an impotent Fed. We have inflation. We have crypto increased adoption. We have obviously crypto been the fastest horse in the inflation hedge race. We have the potential of Lael Brainerd as well, Lael, or however you say her name, Brainerd, coming into the Fed. I mean, I don't actually attach a high probability of that, in all fairness. I do think overall more sensible heads will prevail, and that you just don't really want to be messing around with Jerome Powell. I mean, if nothing else, you can see stock markets are doing okay, and that is the favoured barometer of the elites, pretty much. So, like, why would you want to kind of throw a spanner in those works when the guy is doing a good job at that, a very specific individual aspect of it? So yeah, we shall see what happens, but remember, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own research, and I shall speak to you guys soon.